Musical Talk, the UK's independent musical theatre podcast. Hello and welcome to Musical Talk. I'm Thos, and how clever of you to find me amongst the 8 billion people living on this planet. Maybe you recognise my hat. Well, welcome to this edition of Musical Talk, which today is going to be a long conversation, and a splendid one, with British composer Dougal Irvine, famous, I think, for composing Departure Lounge and Britain's Got Bangra, two highly successful musicals. But today we're going to be talking about In Touch, the musical. Now, those of you with long memories will remember that I saw the workshop of this at the Edinburgh Fringe in 2010, when Act 1 only was put on by the then Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama, now known as the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. And I was delighted by it. In fact, although incomplete, it became my pick of the Edinburgh Fringe for that year. And never have I yearned, I tell you, to find out how the show finished, because it's a great piece of playwriting, highly intriguing, enigmatic, beautifully performed with some wonderful songs. I was left hanging on with a cliffhanger at the end of Act 1, and I've had to wait 2 years to find out how it finally developed, and I was not in any way disappointed, because in 2012 In Touch the musical was performed in its complete version at the Bridewell Theatre in London, put on by MTA, the Musical Theatre Academy. Now, it's unusual. When you see a musical, sometimes you walk away with the songs, sometimes you're struck by a performance. Well, that's true of In Touch when I saw it in Edinburgh. But something much more striking was amazing to me: the story, the narrative. Now, honestly, think how often you've seen a musical where the narrative, the story, has actually been something that's really driven your interest, really engaged you, so much so that you wanted to see it again or find out more. I don't mean this rudely, but quite often the books of musicals don't hold water quite so much as the score or even the performances. Well, with Dougal Irvine's In Touch, it certainly does. And today's conversation with Dougal is going to be about the development of this musical and how it came to be. And you'll hear my enthusiasm about the piece throughout this conversation. But this isn't about me, it's about the show, and it's about its creator. Now, something about Dougal Irvine which I hope you will have picked up from all the interviews we've had with him, or all the reviews about his shows and conversations we've had about his shows with other people, is that he's a lovely man. And that is not just flannel, that's not just weak words. He is genuinely a lovely man. He's full of humility, he couldn't be nicer, and he couldn't be more generous, as well as being horribly talented. Now, I know he's a listener to this programme, and I hope by now he's squirming with embarrassment, but actually he won't say this, so I will. I think Dougal Irvine is the best British musical theatre writer that we have at the moment. I'm sorry, Lord Lloyd Webber, you've had your day. Now, that's quite a tall order, but actually everything he has written has been infused with thought, intelligence, melody, whatever you want from a musical theatre piece, he has put into it and integrated it and infused it all together into one corporate whole. And in each of his musicals, so it's not just a one-off. Why he isn't better known, I don't know. But let's now listen to an interview with the man I think is one of the best, if not the best, in Britain at the moment, Dougal Irvine. Musical Talk. Dougal, fantastic to see you again.
And yourself.
And it's fantastic to see you about the same show that we last chatted about when we last met, which was In Touch, the musical, which was in Edinburgh, 2009, 2010, was it? 2010.
You're putting me on the spot. It was 2010, yeah.
It was.
Yeah. It was the RSAMD students took it up to Edinburgh back to back with Spring Awakening. So, it was the first outing of any of the material, really, in public view. Well, actually, 2009 we had, a Perfect Pitch as well, so it was the second outing.
And the reason I'm interested is because it's come to London. It was on earlier in the year at the Bridewell, in both parts, so we had the full show. At last, I tell you, it's been one of those shows, I've been waiting for 2 years to see how it was going to resolve, because I was absolutely gripped by Act 1, which is what was playing in Edinburgh.
Yeah,
in
that's
2010.
right. Yeah, I'm sorry you had to wait 2 years to see the end of the story.
I savoured the flavour. It was like a very good. Well, I was going to say a very good cheese. It was like a very good wine, in the sense that it got better and better with age. I want to talk about the London production, but I want to talk about the show in general. So, can we just briefly go back and touch base on how it came to be? Because obviously people will know you best, I think, for Departure Lounge, on in Edinburgh again this year.
Yeah, it's been great to have that show go back to Edinburgh. And it was really Edinburgh, I think, where In Touch began. I think Andy Barnes, who, as many people will know, runs Perfect Pitch, was one of the producers on Departure Lounge in Edinburgh, and Perfect Pitch was kind of just getting going then, really, and he was just getting his funding, and he was saying to me, what else have you got? And so just before Edinburgh started, I went away and did a really, really rough. I think I wrote it in 2 weeks, including all the songs and all the text.
The whole arc, both acts?
This is completely different. It's a completely different show. It's called Simple Town, and it was about a boy who meets a cat on the internet, and it was based on Tobermory, a short story by Saki.
Indeed, which was, funnily enough, musicalised at Edinburgh last year in 2011.
Was it? Yeah,
yes.
Really fun little story. And it appealed to me, and I just wanted to do something. So whilst Edinburgh was going on with Departure Lounge, I kind of called in some mates and had a reading of that show, and it was all over the place. It was a bit mental. I often wondered if I continued down that show's route, where I would be. But anyway, Andy was looking to kind of set up the way Perfect Pitch was going to be working, which it now sort of does, and involving workshops and partners, and Lipper had come on board as one of the first Perfect Pitch partners.
Which is Liverpool's Institute of Performing Arts?
Yeah, absolutely. Really great college. Nick and Sally from there came and said, look, we don't really get the show, but we kind of like you, and we like Departure Lounge, and would you like to come and try out some stuff with us? So I thought, well, I'll throw Simple Town away, because it's just, I kind of want to start something fresh with these fresh people. And so I went up to Liverpool basically some sort of late 2008, 2009, and wrote what became the first draft of In Touch over about 4 months, from about 2 or 3 kind of workshops up with the students at Lipper, really. And the first draft of In Touch is dated February 2009.
And, we'll talk about the story in a minute, because I'm going to pay you the compliment of saying, at least I mean it as a compliment, that not only is the score fantastic, it has the most extraordinarily good book.
Oh, thank you.
Which isn't always the case with every musical in the world, or sometimes they're a bit simplistic. But this is none of that, and it's constantly surprising. In fact, when I saw it in Edinburgh in 2010, it just completely tugged me in and absorbed me about where it was going, because there was nothing better than a cliffhanger that you do have to wait for 2 years. And then when I finally saw it complete this year, I was discussing it with someone I went to see it with in the bar afterwards, and it was like a Fabergé egg. Every time during the discussion, took a layer off, I found another layer underneath. So for me, it's a splendidly intricate piece, which I think, when I say it veers direction, it doesn't do anything of the kind. It is two things at once. I think it's, and you'll tell me how completely wrong I am, but to me it seems like a good science fiction musical in Act 1, and then it's only afterwards when it's finished that you suddenly realise that it's also, or so it seems to me, a Christian parable. This in exam tests they normally say discuss at this stage. Is that how you see it? I mean, I'd like to know how you think that the book,
how it kind of goes.
Yeah.
Well, firstly, it's thank you, because it's for somebody who obviously is so invested in musicals as yourself, and to kind of who sees so many, it's really nice to have that affirmation, I guess, because sometimes, I don't know, sometimes you feel like you're writing to 3 men and a dog, so it's nice to hear that people get it from out, or people are attached to it for whatever reason. It speaks to me somewhat, engaged in it. Yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you. So in terms of your sci-fi, definitely. I think my aim was to write something slightly sci-fi, because I'd never seen sci-fi work in a musical before, other than in a Forbidden Broadway kind of silly way, or
Return to Forbidden Planet kind of.
Return to Forbidden Planet, or in We Will Rock You for its own kind of
This
way.
is slightly more hard science fiction. I mean, in the sense that it's about ideas for where we are now, extrapolated into the future. It's not just, here are spacemen in shiny boots. It's not that kind of science fiction.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm deeply into. I kind of find myself going
You're
back to
friends.
sci-fi
Continue.
more and more when I read. I mean, I read lots of a wide variety of stuff, but probably my favourite author is Ian M. Banks, and I love the sort of the space opera kind of fiction that he writes, and they're incredible kind of fantasy worlds, but they're very, very rooted in people and in the way people work and the way societies function and the way kind of power functions and stuff like that. And
science fiction is about human society anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
From a different stance.
Yeah. I'm also a massive fan of like what Kazuo Ishiguro did with the Never Let Me Go and things like that, which is just slightly sci-fi, but still in a very human kind of world. And so that was my way into this. I wanted to do something which is very connected with what we are now and what we're becoming, and yet sort of maybe take a couple of leaps as to what might happen, if certain things that are going on now continue the way they're going to go.
Well, the fact that, and I'm just throwing this in, just throughout the text, just in the book, there's several references to evolution, there's several references to God, there are several references where you think you're going to be taking up the God path and you're not. One moment, Stay-at-Home Dave says, "Oh, my technology," instead of, which got a huge laugh on the night I was there.
Oh, right.
And, of course, you've got the science fiction aspects as well. So it's a lovely little fusion going on.
I mean, it kind of came together in this way, where it is now as a story. I guess I pitch it as what might happen if we start treating the internet as our main basis of moral as a religion, basically. I think is probably the easiest way to describe it without getting too heavy, because it's I wanted to kind of keep it entertaining.
Not in the sense of
fun.
worship, but in the sense of support.
Yeah, support. Yeah, I mean, exactly. Because when people base themselves on just one text, i.e., the Bible, you can see what problems it kind of leads to, and we're in an interesting stage where we've kind of really thrown off the church and that form of kind of looking at the world, and we're moving into a very different way of looking at the world.
Which makes it a very British musical, ironically, in that sense, because it's a very secular musical, at the same time as being religious as well. I mean, in the sense that there's talk about God being banned from the cities, so it is an extrapolation of where British society, I think, essentially is.
Could be, yeah. I mean, there's certainly talk about that now, whether or not religious groups should have
the power that they have. People are talking about the disestablishment of the Church of England over the gay marriage vote. So it's fine.
Well, exactly. I mean, and it can be. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not quite sure where I sit on to be honest, on some arguments of free speech or not. I think that's kind of, again, with why I write about anything, is I write about something I don't quite know and something that scares me maybe, and something I want to explore, and something that I'm probably undecided on, so I can kind of quite often attack it from both sides and see where I fall down on either side of the card or not at all.
But that's much more interesting than if you said, right, I absolutely hate or absolutely love X, and then you wrote a peon for or against that, and then people would think, whereas this is actually, as you say, it's an investigation and it's an exploratory into what could be.
Yeah, I mean, I was interested in kind of how faith and belief become a set of behaviours, and how we then kind of, and when that central belief and faith is removed, how then a new set of behaviours kind of forms. So you've got one character who sort of falls into a faith or into a religion, and another character who falls out of it, and I kind of wanted to show that cross, but at the same time...
They're the two who are married?
Well, actually, you've got that, I imagine the split sort of happened almost before they were married, but you've got Eamon who sort of stays within faith. You've got his wife who kind of falls into one way of thinking.
Yes.
And then in the other story, you've got another character who sort of is hooked in one, and he kind of gets freed when he leaves the room. It's kind of like he's freeing himself from his own kind of like little world he's set up. So I mean, it kind of works on those levels, I think.
Well, would now be a good time to, very briefly, without trying to destroy the story or reveal it too much, just briefly to explain the arc. Can you explain the story briefly?
Yeah, it's set slightly in the future, imagining that a couple of things have happened. Firstly, we're relying on the internet even more than we are, if that's possible. Yes. For everything. I mean, already, like, you have a conversation with somebody and you get stuck to a point and someone goes, Wikipedia the answer,
yes.
And that's the end of the conversation. So, I mean, already we're treating information that we don't know, possibly with a little too much credibility, because Wikipedia isn't the answer to everything. And
it doesn't necessarily have the provenance, does it?
No, and it doesn't necessarily teach you anything really about our morals and our understanding. It's just there for information. But anyway, so it's imagining that we're becoming increasingly reliant on the internet. The world's becoming increasingly overpopulated, particularly in the cities. So contagious disease is forcing people to spend a greater amount of time indoors. That was the main kind of I think, evolution of the story between 2009 and the current draft. Because what I didn't realise when I started writing it was how portable internet devices were going to become. When I started writing it, people were very much tied to the laptop and everything. And with tablets and iPhones and everything, people are very much on the go, and it's very much. Although you could argue somebody could walk around all day in London and still not interact with anyone because they spend the whole time on the smartphone. But so people are becoming confined indoors, and so they're relying more and more on the internet. And the other big step was that the internet was now becoming a way to vote. So you didn't actually have to go into a box and ticket. You could just vote for something online, and political programs and political entertainment was becoming much more interactive. So instead of voting for X Factor, you might vote for a parliamentary decision, a referendum, which is almost there anyway. So those kind of things are taking place. That's all backstory. But the main character, you've got a kid in the room, stuck in a room on his own in a big city, acting as kind of the political leader of the day, providing entertainment, called Stay-at-Home Dave.
Who hasn't been out of his house for 6 odd years?
For nearly 6 years, yeah. So, but he's really cool, and he's really loved on the internet, and he has a community of followers. I didn't realise how popular Twitter was going to become since I started writing it. That's always been there. So he's kind of like, I guess, the head of sort of an internet religious movement in some way.
Well, he's even known as Mr. President, isn't he?
Mr. President.
From the White Room.
Yeah, there's a few there. So he's sort of political. He's the political and sort of religious symbol of that sort of faith. And then. So that's kind of one strand, and he meets his next door neighbour, a girl from just down the hall, Megan, who's sort of a bit aimlessly torn between all sorts of things. She'll believe in anything, really. She's a bit dumb.
Wacky is the word I'd go for.
Yeah, she's kind of a classic kooky American. But basically, they get locked in. Eventually, when the internet wakes up and becomes AI and decides it wants to experiment on humans the same way we do on animals,
which is illustrated through these avatar characters who at first start speaking, and then come to life, as it were.
Yeah, they're equivalent of like a text message. That was my way of finding a stage representation for that idea. And then, so they get, the internet kind of comes to life and forces these two characters together, as well as taking over the world. And they kind of, they just kind of, they learn a little bit about each other and have some fun, and eventually when the air's all running out and it all goes chaotic, he saves her life, and eventually the internet gets erased and all hell breaks loose, but he decides to not rely on one source of information, to trust his kind of heart essentially, and follows her out of the room. So that's that storyline, paralleled with a storyline of a couple who are and this is again taking a bit of a leap. They're kind of creating a human being from a machine which will decodes DNA and basically can create an embryo from that. Again, it's kind of a couple
Design
of
a
steps.
baby idea is not a million years away.
It's not a million years away, yeah. So there are a couple who can't have kids, and she badly wants it, and I think the one particularly has become a little bit single-minded on it. And the male character is of faith. I would say he's Catholic, and I wanted to have somebody that was kind of rooted in that in kind of background as well, because I'm exploring the sort of themes of belief and religion. Anyway, so he's sort of more focused on he hates technology in general and sort of calls them thingies and is unable to kind of cope with it. And they basically separate throughout the course, and she ends up meeting a guy who lives in Korea, who is paralysed and relies totally on the internet for his way of life.
Locked-in syndrome.
He has locked-in syndrome. His body is completely paralysed, and so his computer avatar character is all you ever meet of him, because it's the only thing that he has, really. He's kind of like Stephen Hawking, but even more paralysed than Stephen Hawking. He just has this internet presence. And they end up kind of creating a child together through this code. And it sort of explores the moral sort of areas of that, really. And the only link of the two stories is really this friend character.
Yeah. Who's the Korean avatar?
The Korean avatar, yeah. And you kind of realise that he's been doing what he calls freeing of the mind to lots of other people, and he really is sort of the central core of this sort of religion of people who just totally believe that the internet is the real world and the real world doesn't exist. It's really this is the world to live in. And he also released David from his sort of own inhibitions and said, look, you don't have to function in the real world, you can live in this internet world and it'll be fine, it'll be better, and you can actually be more of yourself than you can in the real world. So he sort of, he's the link of both stories, and I think he realises at the end that maybe what works for him doesn't necessarily work for everybody else, which I think is, so that's, and then he decides to sacrifice his own virtual world in order to save everybody else around him.
Now, That's a very succinct way of describing the story.
Succinct? I think it took about 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, it's not a simple story, is it? I think that's the great thing about it. It's actually... I love the complexity of it through essentially 4 characters. That's not to say there aren't more. There are plenty more, but there's quite a lot in the chorus. But the 2 couples in speech marks are, you've got Stay at Home Dave and Megan, and you've got what I'm going to call the Irish couple, which is Eamon and his wife. And
Merrin,
yes, and so you've got this, and then of course there's Friend,
who links the 2,
and that was one of the things that delighted me in 2009. I couldn't work out how those 2 stories were going to work at all. What was the connection? Because they play through in almost alternating scenes. They're totally, apparently, on the face of it, different stories, and then you get to the end of Act 1, which is the moment when the internet essentially comes to life. And that's, I say, it was like a good Doctor Who cliffhanger. I genuinely spent 2 years waiting on how, not just is that going to be, how is the simple story, not the simple story, how is the story going to be resolved, and what is the connection between these 2 couples? So there were so many questions hanging around. How did the story develop between your initial idea in 2009, the Edinburgh sort of position, and now, would you say? I mean, has it changed vastly? I wouldn't have said there was huge differences. I think it was a bit of a rearrangement between Edinburgh and now.
I mean, I think the main bulk of the story was written between 2009. First draft was taken February 2009, and the last rewrite of Act 2 was probably in, I think it was February 2011. So over a 2-year period, but. I mean, you don't write it for 2 years. You have a week here, and then you have nothing for a few months, and then you have another week. And that time was great. I mean, the thinking time in between was really, really good. And what was lovely about doing it in Edinburgh in 2011 was we really looked at Act 2 with the RSAMD students, pulled Act 2 apart a little bit more. I can't remember exactly how Act 2 used to end, but I had this character called I, who was sort of what Friend became. But I had Friend and I, and Friend was a real life person, and he had his internet avatar, and I was this. When the internet woke up, it became I, and it kind of could control everything, and kind of went through moral questions and stuff like that. And it was really hard to have a character to care about that only came to life at the beginning of Act 2, and kind of acted a bit like a god. He went around and fixed everything, and then went, I can't cope with it, and sort of died. and that was sort of around the 2010 mark. And then I kind of had the idea to kind of merge those storylines, and sort of thought, well, all the problems he's facing, Friend's facing anyway, because he's only able to live through the internet, to kind of put it together. So between when you saw it in 2011 and the 2012 production, I only really did I did one more rewrite, just to tweak scenes and just to
any new songs
rearrange and bits of that. There was one new song. Again, it was all to Act 2. Act 1 pretty much stayed as it was, and I had a song that the Friend character was having his big kind of denouement in Act 2, and I came up with an idea of doing a reprise of the opening number, but doing a dark version, and instead of being in touch, he was out of touch.
Yes.
And that kind of tied the whole show together, actually, and that was the only new song in this draft that the MTA did. But the MTA did the first full show with both acts together. Yeah, it's the first time it's been run through. It's very difficult to get a show on, Thos.
Yes, it is. That's true.
Very hard. You've got to take if someone says, I can do it, do a production, you quite often just go, wonderful. What was lovely about doing it at the MTA was they have 33 students, but they're all in every production, so it's 2 years. And so, I wrote it, there are 8 playing parts, although there's like 4 or 5 characters, but with avatars it spreads out to 8 full parts, which is what you saw in Edinburgh. So to expand it for 33 students was really tricky. I had to kind of take a bit of a leap of faith and let them do their own thing with it, bits of it, and also break certain characters up and say, well, we can have 3 actresses playing that avatar because she appears in 3 scenes in 3 different ways, so you could have a different actress. But it was really lovely to have an ensemble of 20 people.
With good singing voices.
Great singing voices, yeah, and they're really invested in being avatars. So you get this sense, which is very much like today. We're constantly surrounded by technology, and you have these avatars gradually creeping into the scene, and we gave it a real boost. So it's lovely.
I mean, the show opens, I seem to recall, with a kind of sort of all the cast, or certainly the chorus, shall we call them, are sort of making babbling noises in the sense almost like the sound that a fax used to make when you or a modem.
Beeps and whirs.
And with the acoustic at the Bridewell is great because it's an old swimming pool, and because you
is that what it is, really?
Oh yes, it's an old Victorian swimming pool. If you look round next time you're there with the lights on, you'll see where there's the viewing gallery around the edge.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where the orchestra
I never questioned what it was. Amazing. Yeah, lovely acoustics. Yeah.
But what it gives you is a very odd sound because when I was there, we had the principal characters singing at the front of the stage, and therefore you get the clarity of their voice that way. Then you had the combined harmonic voices of the chorus. In some cases, with a slight kind of echo or reverb, which came from the fact they were singing from under the gallery or something like that. So you had two different qualities to the singing going on at the same time.
Yeah.
And of course, if you don't mind me saying, you're the master of, if I may say, the frontline melody by the main actors with a chorus then singing a counter melody underneath or something like that. So there's a lot of...
Well, I can't take 100% credit for that. I mean, most of the vocal...
Yes, you can.
Well, no, for that production I can't. I mean, I think 85% of the vocal arrangements are mine, but Ian Vince Gant came in and added vocal arrangements to make it work for 33 people. So I mean, it was a combination of both of us for that. But yeah, I mean, it was lovely, and it also opened my mind a little bit to how the show could be scaled up. We could do it with 30 people. Wonderful. Yeah, someone gave us £1 million to do it in the West End. It'd be brilliant. We could do it with 33 people.
There's a lot of flexibility. Smiley face.
Or we could do it with 8. For a very small production. So
which does make that extremely versatile.
Yeah.
Listen up, listeners. If you're thinking of doing the show, this could be.
Please, yeah. Well, no, it's given me a lot of renewed kind of confidence in the show, and kind of because it's kind of I'd written it and it just sat there gathering dust. So it was it was great of Anne-Marie to take a punt on it and to get untested material essentially in some ways on their students, and I think it paid off. I think some people came and saw it that wouldn't have come if they'd done a 57th revival of Into the Woods. So I think it paid off for them.
Well, the people in the bar on the night I went were absolutely raving about it. There was one lady at the bar telling somebody else that she wanted every school child in the country to see it. So good luck on getting that one going. that could be a penny or two. Taking us back to the book then, I'm going to say, because I'm still struck and I'm astounded by this unusual concept of the science fiction musical book, which absolutely is a fairly hard science fiction concept rather than a looser one. So not fantasy in that sense. And I just say when it finished and I was discussing it with somebody, I suddenly it dawned on me that Miriam, the Irish lady, was having a child with Friend. Whilst Eamon looked on, which of course is to me it looks like the virgin birth. He's Joseph, she's clearly Mary, and I had taken by this stage Friend to be God, particularly as his name is Friend. This is the Christian parable stuff going on. You're nodding your head interestingly.
Well, yes and no. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think I definitely tried to thread a lot of Christian themes in there. I mean, I was brought up in a classic CV school. I'm not incredibly religious, although I've been through religious phases in and out of.
Well, if nothing else, it's a cultural context for us all. So.
Yeah, exactly. I don't really have any other kind of way of looking at the world, or moral kaleidoscope to kind of look at. But I certainly didn't think of the virgin birth.
Oh, did you not?
No, I hadn't gone.
Oh, really?
No, I mean, it was interesting watching it because I only came to the last night, which is brilliant. I get myself a note to only ever go to the last performances of things rather than try and see them at the beginning and the press night when everyone's stressed. So I really...
I always go on the second night because I know the first night's always going to be too adrenaline filled to get a real sense of what it's about. So.
Well, they only did 5 shows, but it was really lovely to see, and to go in the last night when they're really confident, they really got hold of the material, and I saw things in it I didn't realise I'd written, and going, actually, there's... And that... When I see that, I know that the performers have really got a hold of it, and they're actually bringing something new to it, and it's kind of alive in them, which is brilliant.
A new cohesiveness just through delivery. Yes.
Yeah, and so I was really pleased. I still think it needs a tweak to various points of it. Act 1 still needs a little bit of a tweak, and Act 2 needs a proper rewrite towards the end. But I was sort of 90% happy with it, which is great.
Well, you may or may not. It's very interesting to me that that you realise it was sort of there, but you hadn't necessarily overtly written it that way, because then I had a second, if you pardon, revelation. keeping us on theme, because obviously the friend character is, to me, he was odd. When I realised he was, to me, he seemed to be God, because he's the only avatar you don't actually meet his original
human thing. Well, as I say, in an earlier draft, there was this I character who kind of was like the internet's version of God. So
you sort of married the
two, and in my mind, he was
all. One more, and he had the Trinity.
Yeah, there you go. Oh God. No, he was. Yeah, I suppose in my mind, there is a real person in a bed who has locked-in syndrome, who is working into it. However, because you never meet that real person, and a couple of the directors who I've worked with have gone, should we cast an actor and have them lie in a bed? And I was like, well, or even to show a silhouette of somebody in a bed. But I think for
but I think better because, not, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think that because people don't ever meet the human counterpoint, I think people do bring those kind of
even if
things
it's
to
projecting, because I'm getting a sense that I may be projecting onto the script more than you envisage, because I'm going to take us then onto the stay-at-home Dave character, who once I thought oh well, there's the virgin birth, there's the New Testament sorted out. It seemed to me that stay-at-home Dave was Adam, because he's in his own little paradise. And then a woman turns up. He's quite well. He's got dominion over his creatures through his millions of followers.
Okay.
Who can't genuinely give him genuine friendship, because on his birthday they all give him a poke and then bugger off. So they aren't. He hasn't got any genuine connection.
Yeah.
Suddenly, Megan turns up from nowhere. Wow. They do form a bond, and then at the end, Paradise lost, because the internet, i.e. their support structure, is completely removed.
And they're out in the wilderness.
They are, and they've got to forge for themselves in real life. And I thought, well, that's interesting, because everyone has now been tied up very nicely in Christian parables.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, that's, again, nothing I set out to
really?
do, nothing, honestly.
Well, in which case, you're a subliminal genius, man.
I don't know. I mean, I think the main...
by the way, I ought to say, I'm not particularly religious. It's just contextual. It's
totally.
Cultural,
and I think instinctively that's probably the way I was, I was trying to tap into my own myths, and I think that I'm fascinated by by what we believe and how we form a set of behaviours around those beliefs, and I think that is our own particular religions. Whatever faith we have in, we set up our own behaviours, because we're all mini scientists, because we make experiments on the world, and whatever we get back from it, we learn from. And sooner or later somebody comes up with a set of rules they think really work, and they want to impose it on someone else, and then you get a power structure and if enough people follow that, then it becomes
problematic,
an organised religion. Yeah, exactly. So and I think that that then changes, and that then has other people's influences, and I'm kind of fascinated by that process of how that happens, and how people, and I certainly think in this country, because we are so tied in with a massive church history and massive since obviously the church and state separated, but even some more now, we're with the fall from grace, in a sense, of the idealism of the church and its ideologies. We're all of us are scrambling around, going, we'd love to just believe in ourselves, and we'd love to kind of think that that's enough. But try as we like, I think we more often than not make mistakes, and we need some sort of ideal to focus on in order to shoot. To hit the top of the trees, we've got to aim for those stars. But where do we get those stars from? And so I'm kind of interested in how we develop our own morality.
It's for splintering of certainties in some sense, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I can really articulate all of it. That I just kind of, I generally sort of just follow the feelings and follow what the characters really want to do, and where they want to pull me to go. And once a character starts on a certain path, I kind of go, all right, well, let's see how far that path can go before. I've got to kind of go somewhere else with it.
But Dougal, forgive me, I'm going to ask you something about your creative basis. Would you? You may think this is a simplistic question, and do say so if you think so. But do you think you're a man who tackles your creativity through an intellectual position or through an emotional position? How much of this do you feel? How much of it do you think? I mean, you're obviously putting yourself in the role of your characters, who you're creating.
Yeah,
you are a friend to them, obviously.
I think you've got to. I mean, I think it's the same for any person who works in the arts. I think you've got to set yourself. You've got to analyse it. You've got to break it down. You've got to have a huge scientific process. I think behind what you do. If you're going to make something, if you're going to be able to break it down and make it better,
analytical.
You've got to be able to see the pieces that you put it together. However, creating that piece in the first place is pretty instinctual. I think it's kind of I've got to kind of let it go and let it all come out first, and then probably then go back and analyse it, and with space kind of go, okay, well, where was that going? What was I trying to do with that bit and stuff? So it's really a bit of both. It's Apollo and Dionysus kind of doing a bit of both. I've just been up in Leicester doing Northampton doing the Festival of Chaos. So
those are non-Christian parables.
It's been great, kind of going into a completely different set of ideas.
Let us talk, if you're happy, a little bit about your career at the moment then, and we'll come back to In Touch because there's plenty more to be said. But what have you been doing with yourself? I mean, you're a man now, I think, with a tremendously well-known show, but you've got a portfolio of works under your belt now.
I'm trying to, yeah. Britain's Got Bangor.
Britain's Got Bangor, I do
yeah.
apologise. Yeah. In Touch now, Departure Lounge. If nothing else, you've got 3 bona fide cast iron shows, it seems to me.
I've been fortunate and worked kind of hard and just tried to. I mean, these have happened really. I probably considered myself a writer after Edinburgh 2008, and when that happened, that changed my life really, and so since then, it's been 4 years, and now Departure Lounge is going back to Edinburgh, and I'm nothing to do with it. It's another production company taking it, which is wonderful.
That is the ultimate accolade, I always think, if other production teams are prepared to pick it up.
Yeah, no, it's lovely. And I've been and seen it and given them my 5% or whatever, but essentially, I haven't really done anything. They've done it all themselves, and it's been really nice to kind of sit back and remember. I remember, I guess, the person I was when I kind of wrote it, and I'm kind of keen to write things and not go back and change them too much, after because you change as a person as you kind of get older. But yeah, so it's been a 4-year period really, and I've written a lot of stuff which has never seen the light of day, done a lot of things you have to do, done a lot of songwriting contests, done a lot of individual things for individual people, charity, anything I can do really. I've just kind of pulled out and said, if that's an opportunity, I'll do it, and I'll give it 150%, and
see if anything comes of it.
See if anything comes of it, yeah, and it's starting to kind of pay off gradually. This Northampton, I've been the resident composer at Royal and Derngate in Northampton for the past 6 months, and that's definitely.
And that's composer in residence, isn't it? So it's
composer in residence.
Explain what that job is, because a lot of people are going to say, "What the hell's that?"
Well, it varies. It varies, I guess, from theatre to theatre. So there's 5 of these placements going to happen over the next 2 years, and 2 of them have been decided. There's me at Northampton, Royal and Derngate, and it's Craig Adams at the Finborough. I imagine Craig's probably going to do a lot more productions than I will, because their turnover is much quicker. Composer in residence, I guess, means writing for whatever the theatre needs. So it's a cheap way, for the theatre's point of view, of saving money and paying money for lots of composers. The downside is they get somebody who they get one person who's got to fulfil all these roles. But it's a great brief for the composers. They're writing for all sorts of different things.
Would you like to do everything and we'll pay you? I mean, that's essentially it, isn't it?
Well, the payment comes in terms of you get an amount of money you're supposed to live off for a set period of time. So depending on how long the work takes, it could be considered a lot or it could be considered very little. In practical sense, what I've done in Northampton, which may not seem an awful lot, but it's been a massive undertaking, has been to write the music for these 2 big Festival of Chaos productions, the Bacchae and for Blood Wedding, and there's more music in each production than there is for any of the musicals I've ever written.
Really?
There was 45 minutes of music in the Bacchae and an hour and 10 or hour and 20 in Blood Wedding, so there's as much as a full musical in both of them. So there were
these are songs or incidental music or a bit of everything, or
there were songs in the Bacchae as there were in the original piece, and I was setting music to Rosanna's text essentially, and sort of helping out a little bit lyrically, but only very brief. It was mostly just a music job, and with Blood Wedding it was a lot of underscoring, and there's a couple of bits of poetry in Blood Wedding which I was setting to music, but it's mostly underscoring, and for that I was also playing as part of the band.
I mean, this is a real throwback, because 120 years ago every theatre in London had a composer residence, and indeed when they needed music they did exactly that, and one of the rare survivals of that is it's a fairly old show now, but the original Peter Pan, the one that sort of started in 1900, but Noel Coward appeared in 1911 and was revived every year right up until about 1950.
Really?
With the same, it just happened that particular composer in residence was lucky enough to write a score for a really successful show. So
I think it comes about from it's the first time in my career history that I've only been in this industry for 10 years, but it's the first time in my mind that somebody from the top has put their hand in their own pocket and said, we're going to give some money directly to artists to kind of help them to work. And I'm just grateful to Cameron McIntosh really, because he's put his money where his mouth is, and he's funded 5 of these placements. And it's been wonderful, to write for those spaces.
Career-changing opportunities, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got to work very closely with Laurie, which is wonderful, and he's such a exciting director. And the last stage of my composer in residence is to develop something with the theatre, with the idea of either pursuing the rights for something or developing something, or and I had something I was writing before I went in, but it turns out we might be developing something else, which
so you've got
is
possible
great.
strands in different directions. I mean, that was the next question, of course, which is what's the next Dougal Irvine show to land in the world?
Well, the last thing I've written, when I started writing at all, I looked at what Sondheim did, even though I'm never going to try and be like Sondheim. But early on in his career, he wrote like 3 pieces or something. Oscar Hammerstein sent him.
Yes, it was actually 4 pieces, and one of which was Mary Poppins, by the way.
What that he had to write? Yeah, okay. So he wrote something that was already existing. So I didn't quite follow that route, but I thought I'll write a small-scale musical. Well, I'd already written Departure Lounge by that point. I thought that's a small-scale musical. I'll write a mid-scale musical, of which In Touch is, because it's only 8 parts, and a large scale. And my large scale it's a modern version of the Beggar's Opera called the Buskers Opera.
Is it now? Come on, that's interesting.
And I've just finished what I would consider proper first draft of it, and we are I'm flogging it about. So if you know anyone who's got some money they want to put into it, that would be wonderful. So I'm trying to find a home for that at the moment.
That sounds fantastic.
And they're kind of for my portfolio, and I won't probably write another one where I'm doing book music and lyrics because it's just too much.
Really? But you are remarkably good at it. I mean, which do you find most comfortable then?
I'll do whatever anyone pays me to do.
Right. You just won't necessarily want to do
what's
them in
really
combination.
useful.
Yeah.
Well, no, I don't know. It's hard. People are always out to kind of attack from various sides.
Yes.
So if there's something that's weak, and also there's also a stigma against people who supposedly don't like to collaborate. And where I would say I've collaborated with everyone I've ever worked with. And I've also done jobs where I'm just doing one or just doing the other. But I think I did all 3 because I thought I would learn an awful lot about writing all 3. And also practically, if I'm going to write something on spec, it's just a bit quicker to sit down with myself and kind of write it than to have to kind of arrange. That said, I'm doing another couple of projects on spec with other people where I'm just doing one project or the other. So it totally varies.
I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to the Buskers Opera already. I mean, you've whetted my appetite. I mean,
it's
that's
quite
such
dark. It's a tough piece to
story,
start
though,
with.
isn't it?
Yeah. It was tough actually. Going to some places I wasn't quite comfortable with going to, and going, is this just going to put people off? And it's a funny piece, and I'm not sure if I really get the piece to begin with. So I had to find a way of making the piece work for myself, as well as finding a different version of it.
But isn't that one of the great things about creativity, I always think, but actually that you are helping to navigate something, whether it's an idea or a piece of music. I mean, this is why I like lyricists and lyrics, because it seems to me that the lyricist is in the privileged position of navigating a tune, for want of a better phrase, in order to make it palatable for the public or engageable with. That's not to say a piece of music can't live on its own, of course it can, but
depends which way around it's done, really.
Oh, go on. That's
it depends. If you're doing music first, then lyrics, then arguably yes. I mean, that's a lot of what I had to do on Bangra was writing lyrics to existing melodies. Although if you quite often the lyrics come first, and somebody will set music to that, which is what I had to do for the others, for the recent shows.
Well, you just said you were setting.
So I mean, for that sense, I don't know. I'd argue. I still, as much as I love being a lyricist and think it's a wonderful and worthy occupation, I'm also aware that you go and see a West End show and 50% of the lyrics you can't hear. Even with the best sound designer, I just don't know why. I went and saw Billy Elliot the other week. Wonderful show, couldn't hear 80% of the lyrics.
But is that why, man, because of the accent? Or
no, I don't know. I just thought the band were too loud, and it's always
the balance is
the
often
case.
wrong in London.
It's a shame, but with that show, it doesn't matter. Sadly enough, they're probably wonderful lyrics, and I certainly heard some great ones, but the for me the show's all about when that kid starts dancing, you just go wow, and that's the heart of the story.
It is a choreography show, that one.
Yeah, the choreography is sensational, absolutely sensational, and so the show really works despite having bland tunes and lyrics you can't hear. The show still, I still was moved to tears. It was a beautiful show. So
was that the first time you'd seen it?
Yeah.
You've seen the film, though?
Yeah.
Which does help, I think. It's a primer in this country, at least. Yeah,
absolutely. But I couldn't really remember the film, and I still really cared. apparently I had the best Billy on as well, which helped. But it was wonderful. It was a really, really good night out at the theatre. And
I just love it. I think it's incredibly brave for any show to start with black and white footage of Herbert Morrison, who was a cabinet minister in the 1950s.
Yeah, it was a brave show.
Yeah.
I mean, God, on so many levels. It's like it's brave politically.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's great, and it really works. And I was like, wow, if more West End shows took more risks like that, you can really do it.
What are they going to do the day that Margaret Thatcher actually does die?
Yeah.
They might have to cancel that evening anyway.
Didn't stop them making a movie, but anyway.
Oh no, that's true.
Yeah.
So things are looking. When I say rosy, I mean as rosy as one can do for you. It would certainly be. You're in demand, aren't you?
Well, I'm not at the moment. Someone wants to give me a job. They're very, very happy to. No, it's been incredibly grateful for this, particularly this placement. It's really turned things around because it's very, very difficult. Many composers starting out and trying to do it what I would consider, I guess, the honest way of just trying to make their shows as good as possible and not necessarily going on a high concept product to begin with. It's very, very difficult. It's going well. I can see like a small progression and start to see doors potentially opening that I couldn't see a year ago.
But
so
you're a name.
Very, very.
I mean, you may not. I mean, forgive me. I'm going to say that you're. I hope you won't mind me saying this, but you're a lovely man. So you probably won't agree with this, but you're a name. You've got a great talent, and for the last few years, Dougal Irvine's been someone to talk about in British musical theatre. There's only a handful of those.
Well, that's new to me. Bless you. I'm only a name when you can put me above the door of a theatre and people will come and see it because of that. And bless you. I mean, I think
we'll change your name to Mr. Stage Door. Then,
yeah, maybe. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what to say to that.
But there's a. I was going to say, is there a Dougal Irvine sound? But I'm going to tell you there is a Dougal Irvine sound. But would you care to have a crack at what that is? Because obviously you're very guitar-minded, or...
Yeah, or what was great about the Northampton gigs was not using a guitar, actually. It was the first time I've had, again, just having the freedom to go, okay, I won't touch the guitar for this, and I'll write a whole bunch of music on piano and stuff. So, and I'm starting to write piano scores now, but I'll never be a pianist. I'll try and learn piano over the next few years. But
Irvine Berlin did quite well, and he can play. So.
But yeah, I think approaching a song, I tend to hear a song more orchestrally now anyway. And sometimes I'll only go to the guitar when I think it needs a certain feel, and I know it's going to be right for the guitar. Then I'll start. Otherwise, I'll start it on piano, or just start programming it straight, or just start writing the score and start orchestrating it. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I've probably got a sound as most composers kind of have, really.
Not all, but I think yours is. I mean, you've got a good ear for melody. I like your lyrics a great deal, but there's a certain. It's very difficult to describe music, isn't it, in some senses, but there's a lilt in what you write. And once again, I mean this complimentarily, there's nothing, when I say there's nothing heavy, that's not to say you don't have gravitas and bottom. What it means is that...
Could I quote you on that?
Yes, please do.
Got bottom.
It's a good thing to have, I tell you. But that's not to say that you don't have that, but it is that you've got... there's nothing which is painful to the ears. And that, when I say it out loud, it sounds like damning with faint praise, but actually it's the highest compliment I can pay. Because I'm never bored by your music. I'm never bored by your lyrics. I'm certainly never... there's never a moment when I have to take myself out and think, oh, he's doing this now. I think your music absolutely engages, is fully integrated with the story that it's telling as well, which is a marvellous thing. Because sometimes you can say, oh, they're doing their Sondheim now, or he's doing his look at me, I can be pretentious music, or whatever.
Well, maybe,
and I don't get that with you.
Or maybe my references are from outside musical theatre. I don't know. I mean, I didn't grow up on musical theatre. I came to it quite late. Came to it at university. So maybe my musical imprints were already in place, and they weren't from musicals. So I don't tend to reference musicals because I don't really. They're not in my DNA. I mean, I had to write a pastiche musical number for the Bacchae, and I really struggled. I was just like, I don't understand it. I had to go away and listen to loads, and then go, okay.
But what is the musical sound these days? There might have been one a few years ago, but I mean, if someone's saying what's if you were stereotyping music, so what did you use to stereotype
that's wonderful.
Music?
I mean, that's good.
I bet it was the American sound, wasn't it? The New York.
To stereotype music?
Yeah. Was it kind of Tisch school kind of music?
I don't know what that is.
Well,
sorry.
Jason Robert Brown kind of,
Oh no, I love Jason Robert Brown.
That's not to say,
I don't think I again, I don't think I could write that because it's not.
So
He was trying to sound like Billy Joel. Like he would say that was his roots. And probably the two bands that had the biggest influence on me growing up were U2 and the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh, crikey.
So
which also ages you nicely for anyone listening.
There you go. That was. Those were the two bands I think I remember listening to, and I think I was really fond of a band called the Levelers. I don't know if you know them.
I know their political history, but
folk rock band. Yeah, well, yeah, they were obviously based on the name came from a
Civil War group. Yes.
Yeah, but they were kind of like a folk rock group. So yeah, I had like power pop with kind of funk rock rap and a bit of folk and a bit of Jamiroquai as well. Those are probably the four biggest influences on my music.
And I couldn't name any of those, although I can see folk in your music, but I'm afraid I don't have that pop history behind me at all.
So maybe others would do it. Yeah. But I think with every thing, I don't think I'm at the stage yet where I can really go back and pull apart my own songs. I think I'm just focused on whatever I'm doing at the moment and whatever I'm doing next, and maybe if I ever stop or ever kind of sort of sit back a bit, then maybe I'll look back at my stuff and go, oh yeah, that's like that, or that's like that. Bless you.
But I'm really intrigued. When you had to do did you actually succeed in doing a typical musical spoof for the Back Eye?
Yeah, I did it too well.
Did it too well?
Well, what it was too funny. It was like it was a vaudeville number. It was the dress. I don't know if you know the Back Eye at all.
The story,
the play, yeah, or the original. But there's this scene where they dress Pentheus up as a woman and send him off to get ripped apart by women in the wilderness. So what Rosanna the adapter had done was to write this number called the Dressing Up Chorus, and so it was like a dark vaudeville kind of cabaret Kander and Ebb kind of number. And I had to do this for my submission. They were like, you need to write a vaudeville number. And I was like, okay. It's not invited. So it took me forever to do. The other bit was a lot quicker.
Because it's just not in your DNA.
Because it's just not in my DNA. And then, but I got through it and it was fine. It worked. And actually the note was, it's too cheerful and too vaudeville and too kind of close to the bone. And actually, we want to go darker later on and stuff. And that was great. And then
so you got Kander and Ebb perfectly then. You just need to take it.
And then towards the end it got more and more discordant and evil and the violin was playing in a different key and stuff like that. So that was fun. So that was how I got through that bit. But it was weird. I was during the submission we had to write that and another set of music from another part in the show. And I found the bit that I think most people would have found easy. I found that the most difficult, and found the bit that writing something kind of new fairly quick in the end.
Taking us back then to In Touch for the moment, it came to London, marvellous show. Does it at the moment have anywhere further to go?
No, I would love it to.
So is it licensed? Is it licensable?
Yeah, well, the Perfect Pitch have now taken it into their licensing, which is fantastic. So they're licensing a lot of the shows which they've developed. So I'm really happy because it began life with Perfect Pitch. It wouldn't exist without Perfect Pitch. So that is
they
really.
They are friend.
Yeah, they are friends.
Please, thank you.
They are nice. They basically, I've been involved with Andy and Wendy on that show really from the word go. So, and I think because it feels like because it was developed in drama schools, I started with LIPA, it went to RSAMD, we did an Arts Ed workshop, and the MTA did it. It's it feels like
you took it to Arts Ed as well, did you?
Yeah, I mean they had a slot.
I live 200 yards from their front door.
Next time. Well, I'm trying to persuade Chris Hocking to put it on. So if it goes on,
yes. I'll send him a letter then.
Please do. He might do it. So it sort of had a lot of life in drama school. So I mean, it would really suit a drama school production because it shows off. It's got 8 full parts. Which is like half a typical drama school year, and they tend to cross-cast all that. So that it would suit there. So I think the plan is to perhaps do another workshop, another drama school, and potentially do it there. So it might get, and because it's a rubbish title. I'm useless at titles.
Do you think so?
Yeah, if it was called Facebook the Musical, it might have got, it might be done by now.
The Musical.
But I mean, that's the sort of thing that sells tickets, Thos. It's hard. In Touch is just an abstract title. It doesn't work, unfortunately.
And with no disrespect to the writers of Facebook the Musical, this is 97.3 times better. I measured it.
Okay.
That's the official rating.
So it's difficult, and it's not, and just thank you for saying what you said, but I'm not a name. No one knows who I am, so it's impossible. We couldn't put it on even somewhere like Trafalgar Studios 2 without severe names. So I think it's a case of doing this as a slow burner and doing it as many amateur and drama school opportunities as we can get, and hopefully word of mouth might spread enough to potentially get it on with pros somewhere. Would love it to go somewhere. Yeah, it could do. Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether I'm have to simplify some of the harmonies a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's sort of, I guess it's the slow burner route we're looking for this one. And if, touch wood, something else I write gets maybe a bigger recognition, then people might go, well, what else has he got in his catalogue?
Let's see his back catalogue, absolutely.
Yeah, and come back to it. So, but I'm really pleased it got to a full production at this time. I think if it had happened last year, it probably wasn't ready. And yeah, I'm kind of proud of it. And I think with another couple of tweaks and stuff, it'll be a nice show to sit there in my catalogue and go, it's there. It kind of works. It works within its own little, on its own terms.
I think it's the most engaging evening, with the most, if I may say, most delightful and enigmatic aftertaste. I think it's fantastic.
Enigmatic aftertaste and Dougal's got bottom. I'm going to remember those quotes. That sounds like a cocktail, enigmatic aftertaste, or a particular night out. Anyway,
well, right, okay. Moving on. No, seriously, Dougal, I have to say, it's a real pleasure talking to you, because I haven't seen anything of your show, that you've produced that I haven't enjoyed. And that gives you a pretty good track record as far as I'm concerned. You're also such a nice chap to boot, so thank you very much for talking to me.
Thank you.
And I hope this won't be the last time for us to chat, and indeed for us to see, or for me to see, In Touch, because I do hope it deserves. It's a great show, and in keeping with the Christian parable, it deserves to go on to musical heaven.
Bless you. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Musical talk. Now, that was Dougal Irvine talking about In Touch, and I was so pleased to see it. Now, unfortunately, its score isn't currently available, but you can go to Dougal's own website, which is www.dougalirvine.com, and that's DOUGALIRVINE. And there, on the page marked musicals, you'll see pages about Departure Lounge, pages about Britain's Got Bhangra, and pages about In Touch the Musical, where you can hear 2 of the songs from the score. Also from his website, you can buy his latest album, Acoustic Overtures, which features him and many other brilliant singers singing a selection of songs by Dougal from shows and elsewhere from his incredibly versatile repertoire, including a few songs from In Touch the Musical. I cannot give this show enough praise. I look forward to it continuing to be put on, that brave theatre groups will put it on and realise that in fact it's a highly accessible, very intelligent, splendid ensemble musical. And it deserves to go on and up, and one day make it to the West End, where it truly deserves to be. Now, you might say, gosh, the old man's given it some today. Well, it's true. Dougal's a lovely man, but more than that, he's a talented man. And he deserves every success. I look forward to speaking to him again in the future, about new shows perhaps. But for the time being, I think that's probably enough. In Touch is all about the development of the internet. Musical Talk is a purely internet entity. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the World Wide Web and the internet. And so, if in accordance with the plot of In Touch the Musical, Musical Talk as an internet entity eventually develops its own sentience and takes over the universe, then roll on those happy days. But for now, you may continue to live as a free person. But until your impending musical theatre slavery, may I wish you a very happy time until we speak again. Goodbye. This episode of Musical Talk edited and produced by Thos Ribbits. Copyright Musical Talk 2013. And why not go along to our website and listen to previous episodes at www.musicaltalk.co.uk. Well, here's just a little postscript for you, because just after I finished editing this episode, I got talking to Dougal Irvine by email, and I discovered delightfully that In Touch is in fact going to be on this very week, so there is a chance to see it, and splendidly it's outside of London, which we just don't get to talk about enough on Musical Talk. So if you want to see In Touch the musical and you're in the north of England, why not go along to the University of Cumbria and their theatre, Stanwix Theatre, Stanwix, and you can see In Touch the musical. It's on Thursday, the 31st of January at 5:30 in the evening. It's on Friday the 1st at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's on Saturday, the 2nd of February at 8 o'clock in the evening. If you get the chance, do see this wonderful musical and go along to www.cumbria.ac.uk or just search University of Cumbria In Touch by Dougal Irvine.
And here are some musical out-talks. I've done this before 1,000 times, so if you say anything you don't like, or rather you hadn't said, just say, we're not using that and I will take this out. Because, I'm also a bit worried that this table's not quite as stable as it might be. So.
Should we get another one?
Oh, shall we?
Should we get another table for drinks that we really like? That's rock and roll, isn't it?
This is the world.
Separate drinks table.
So richly deserved. Is that right for you?
Yeah, totally. Here we are. This is living.
And I say, if we go into any areas, just say let's not.
Okay.
Marvellous. Well, obviously I'll do an in-studio link, so we'll just come straight in. Taking us back to the... by the way, just in terms of time, are you okay? I was going to take it back to In Touch and then probably sort of round it off, if that's okay, because I think we've been running for about 50 minutes. Is that right?
Yeah,
train time for you?
Yeah, fine.
Good.
Yeah.
As long as you're okay. Dougal, is there anything else you want to say, by the way? Or I think
No,
that's a good thing. Dougal, it's a real privilege. It's such a privilege I can't say it.
Indefinable.
Enigmatic, in fact, yes. Now, is that all right for you, Archer?
Yeah, great. Yeah, no. Lovely.
And is there anything you need to take in or
anytime? I'm sure you'll make sense of it somewhere. I think I was slightly more coherent than when you saw me in Edinburgh, which was probably after no sleep. And,
yes, it was first thing in the morning as well. It wasn't straight after. It was something.
It was probably after first preview.
It was
or
in Pleasance, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think you might have seen the first ever show.
Yeah, I came twice.
Okay, right.
Yes,
No, thank you for your pick of the Fringe. There are bits of music out there. I think 5 of the songs have been recorded professionally. One's on Stuart Matthew Price's album, Touch of Love, as you know. Shona White has done Easier, which is the song Marin sings in Act 2. She's recorded that on her album. And 3 of the songs are on my album, Acoustic Overtures. Which I did.
Which I don't have a copy of, and I must acquire, so forgive me, I hadn't read it.
You can get it from Dress Circle, or you can get it from the website, or iTunes, or whoever. There's 3 of the songs on that. There's Megan's Hero, which is the song Megan sings on the blog. Tyranno, which is the
horse and Don't Touch the Ground story.
Yeah.
Fabulous song, by the way. Fabulous song.
Based on a traditional Celtic legend.
And I'll tell you what, I'm going to be honest with you, there are 2 things I generally don't much like in the history of the world. I don't much like folk, and I don't much like folk stories, and yet that song is fabulous. So I don't know how you've done it. You've infused something that I genuinely like. And
that's my Celtic roots. I've kind of always been fond of that story. And Samantha Bach sings. I on the album I'm singing that with Samantha Bach. Glorious singer. And the last song, We Need Love, is Stuart Matthew Price is on that. Is on that one. Yeah,
he gets everywhere, doesn't
he? He does.
He's his birthday soon, isn't it?
Probably.
I'll put it in my diary somewhere.
You probably know better than me.
We won't pokey him. So.
Yeah, I mean that's another thing, because that was in one of the early drafts, that song, and if the word poke had completely disappeared in those 3 years, I would have been.
And it was something you were worrying about when we actually spoke, because you actually said in that one, you said it's difficult picking of those things you think have got at least enough life. Yeah,
and what's weird is conversely, the followers thing. I mean, I was imagining beyond Facebook that people would have followers or something like that, and this was before Twitter, and then Twitter's suddenly become mad. So suddenly when you say someone's got 50 million followers, they know exactly. People go, oh, he's on Twitter, and I go, well, that wasn't what I wrote.
You preempted that. You should sue.
Kind of, there you go.
Sue Stephen Fry, start there.
Nah, it's Stephen, but yeah. So yeah, it's been interesting seeing. And I think when Andy saw it this time around, he was like, well, it's weird because it's more relevant now than it was 3 years ago, and we were worried it would go out of fashion. So again, that's kind of, it'd be nice to kind of get it going more and more, because it is. I think everyone's going, we're using it more and more and more, and where is it going? So
well, I tweet. So.
Everyone does. Yes,
Yeah.
I think I follow you on Twitter.
Do you? I certainly follow you. So
I think I followed you
Oh, that's very
since
kind.
Edinburgh. So yeah. No, I do listen to Musical Talk fairly
really?
regularly. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's awfully good of you.
Yeah, no, I do. I love it.
It's varied, if nothing else. Never mind
Well,
the
yeah,
quality. Just look at the quantity.
There's a lot. They're a decent length, but you get you kind of get to the heart of whoever you're talking to, and it feels like, and you give them a chance to talk.
That's what
So
I
it's
really.
great.
It's a real privilege for me to get to meet people like you. But also, I mean, and stop me if you need to disappear. But I've met so many people who've met the press before and know immediately what the press want: 2 or 3 anecdotes, a couple of good quotations to fill up half a page or whatever. They're not interested in the story. And I've seen people. Bonnie Langford, lovely woman. But for the first 10 minutes, she thought, this is a standard press interview, I'll just give her the standard quotations.
Yeah.
And then when I started asking a few questions, which she thought, oh, hang on a minute, those are a bit out of the blue and a bit more in-depth. I'm not going to flatter myself to say good, but they were more than she was used to. And then suddenly you could see it. I wish I'd videotaped it. It was like all the lines and the guard drops.
Yeah.
And then we went on and had a lovely conversation. And she was massively indiscreet. It was marvellous.
Yeah.
I didn't use those bits.
But I think that the podcast is it's largely down to yourself as well. You're a very charming person and lovely to talk to, and it's also nice to meet.
Come again.
It's also nice to meet an educated fan of the genre of the medium, and go, somebody, this person does get it and he does understand and he knows his stuff, and that's a pleasure.
Very, very pleasure. I do hope this might be the last time we chat. Well, it won't
Anytime.
be anyway, but thank you.
It's a really interesting phone call going on at the moment. A guy talking to himself. You can edit that bit out. Anyway.